mummy coffin built during the 19th dynasty. Inside and outside, both coffin and cover are decorated with large figures of gods, vignettes and inscriptions from the Book of the Dead, as well as emblems and decorations painted in bright colors. An outer mummy coffin, whose cartouches identify the occupant as Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh, daughter of Thothmes I. The inner coffin is located to the right of this one. The exterior of this coffin is gilded and inlaid with lapis lazuli in a pleasing aesthetic pattern. A close look reveals brightly painted scenes of the deceased playing a board game with Amon-Ra, water skiing with the goddess Sekhmet, and drinking at a tavern with Thoth, the god of wisdom. In essence, these painted scenes served the purpose of candid family photos, even though they never actually happened. Armed with these snapshots, the deceased could try and con his way safely through the underworld to meet the gods themselves. Usually the gods had good memories and would never remember meeting the deceased, whose soul would then die of embarrassment. Ironically, there's a gold Ankh medallion, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, resting in the pool of blood. A close look reveals the initials PS inscribed in the back of the bloody Ankh. You pick it up and place it in your purse. It's definitely blood. Most of it is still liquid, but some of it is already starting to dry. An inner mummy coffin, which was contained in the exterior mummy coffin to the left. Identified from the cartouches on both coffins, the occupant was probably Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh, daughter of Thothmes I. Hatshepsut built the magnificent tomb temple at Deir el-Bahri and ruled for 20 years with her lover Senmut. At her death, Hatshepsut's successor tried to erase all memory of her by destroying her statues and obliterating her name from her various monuments. The mummy coffin is made of gilded wood painted with bright, colorful scenes from Hatshepsut's life. Looks can be deceiving. His mouth is gaping wide, showing you some fine dental work. This was a man who took pride in the appearance of his teeth. From the look in his eye, it appears that Dr. Carter was surprised to find a dagger being inserted in his chest. Pippin has a glazed expression in his right eye, staring off into eternity. At least he faced his death with his eyes open. Pippin's ear is unharmed. Perhaps for the first time in his life, Dr. Carter's hair is in disarray. There's a slight bulge in Pippin's jacket, as if he's carrying something in an inside pocket. Pippin's pants are neatly pressed, but there are streaks of blood and a damp stain. Blood is coursing down the neatly buttoned tuxedo vest. Dr. Carter's flesh is looking rather pale, as if he's not feeling well. Perhaps it's because he's lost a lot of blood. Dr. Carter seems to have suffered a severe trauma to his chest area. Pippin has a flower in his lapel, but it looks quite innocent. Pippin's shirt is immaculate, except for a few streaks of blood. His tie is partially undone, which is something that never would have happened if Dr. Carter had been allowed to notice it. You hear a disturbing gurgling noise when you poke Pippin in the chest. When you reach into Pippin's tuxedo jacket, you find a notepad in his inner pocket. A notepad made of good quality paper. There's an imprint on the paper from the previous message written on the pad, but it's too faint to read. Unreadable words are imprinted on the paper. You pick it up and place it in your purse. You don't want to touch this dagger. It's evidence and you don't know where it's been. It feels fake. A bit of water trickles out from the center of the flower. His flesh feels cold and clammy. You lightly touch the blood with your finger. It's wet. His ear feels cold. It feels greasy to the touch. You poke him in the eye. His eyeball feels squishy. You poke Pippin's right eye. A tear trickles down his cheek. His mouth and tongue feel dry. His mustache feels stiff. Keep your fingers out of Dr. Carter's nose. Dr. Carter's mustache is neatly trimmed. Pippin's nose appears to be undamaged. He does not appear to have suffered any blows to his face or nose. His nostrils are flared, as if in anger or surprise, in death as in life. He's looking down his nose at you. Although there are a couple of breadcrumbs caught in his mustache, they don't seem to be significant as evidence, particularly since you saw him eating bread at the party. No cavities in his teeth. The tongue is arched as if to say, You're not sure if the gaping mouth means he was trying to scream or that rigor mortis is setting in, stretching his face muscles. However, he has only been here a short time. Pippin isn't breathing, but you detect the smell of garlic on his breath. It isn't a pleasant smell. His hair is a bit greasy, as if he hasn't washed it today. It has a slight smell of cigarette smoke, which is probably from the party. A close look reveals that Pippin kept his ears very clean. His right eye is somewhat bloodshot, as if he's been working long hours recently in preparing the ancient Egypt exhibit for public display. There are no signs of scratches or bruises on his flesh. This could mean that the murderer, assuming this wasn't a suicide, knew Dr. Carter well enough to get close and stab him without arousing any suspicion. Or it could just mean that Dr. Carter was completely taken by surprise when someone assaulted him from the shadows. There is a wide cut in the shirt fabric where the dagger sliced through to Pippin's chest. The cut is slightly wider than the width of the blade, as if it moved to one side after it penetrated his body. The jacket is free of blood, but there is a bluish stain on one lapel. A close look and sniff at the stain makes you think that it's grape juice. The flower is fake. It has no detectable smell. A tube runs from the back of the flower, behind the lapel, down to a squeeze bulb inside the vest. When you squeeze the bulb, a weak stream of water squirts you in the eye. From the smell of the damp stain, it appears that Dr. Carter was quite surprised by the stabbing. A close look at the dagger reveals the words, "Made in Pittsburgh," stamped on the part of the blade that is not buried in Pippin Carter's chest. To your naked eye, the rough surface of the dagger handle doesn't appear to hold any fingerprints, but that's something for the coroner to examine in detail. The red fluid appears to be blood. This might explain Dr. Carter's pale appearance. Studying the location of the dagger wound and its proximity to the vest, it's safe to conclude that the blood on the vest is coming out of the wound on Pippin's chest.
You scream like a banshee, lass. Did you kill the man then?
No, I just walked in here and found him.
I suppose that would explain your screaming then. Did you see the murderer?
No.
All right, I'll talk to you later after you've had a chance to calm down. Just don't try to leave the building.